Hello, hello, sweet honeybees, and welcome to the Electric Honey Pot, where energy is the nectar of life. My name is Autumn, and this whole project is about the human experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of the magic that happens in between. I have tried to record this video so many times now, but I keep getting in my head about it, keep trying to make it perfect when there really is no perfect way to talk about this subject matter. I did get it out of me a couple of days ago and I uploaded it yesterday, but I had a lot of anxiety about it, so I deleted it pretty quickly, decided to sleep on it, and then this morning I just kind of had an epiphany where I realized I am just telling my story from the wrong perspective. It's something that I definitely feel like I need to talk about, even if it is some heavy subject matter, because I feel like this is a serious problem within our society and our culture as a whole. And learning to tell my own personal story dealing with this subject matter is exactly what has led to me being able to heal. And on this channel, I do a lot of talking about how psychedelics have been helping me process and heal from trauma. And that has also been a big part in me being able to finally vocalize the things that happened to me. Over the last couple of weeks, I have had this reoccurring theme of truth popping up in my life, whether it was when I was out in Colorado the final night of the Zed's Dead concert. They ended the night with a song that was a bunch of different clips of people talking about how hard the world can be and dreaming of a better world. And it closed out with this clip of Tupac talking about how I don't have the solution to the world's problems, but if I talk about them, I know that somebody listening will. And that really resonated with me because I am a firm believer that we need to be able to confront and have difficult conversations and shine light on dark topics to be able to learn how to work through them and find solutions so that less people in this world have to experience the same hardships that myself and many others have gone through. I also got a random invite out to a Kesha concert. And I love what she's doing with her Tits Out tour because it has this underlying theme of telling your story, speaking your truth, being your most authentic self, and finding freedom and soul evolution within all of it. She began her set with this basically spoken word. I'll include it on the screen for those of you that would like to know what it was. But I did write down the first part of it to read aloud in case you are just listening to this in podcast format. It started with, "What does freedom feel like? Tell us your story. The truth will set you free." And it's so true because those that take advantage of others and that harm others want their victims to be silent because that is how they continue taking advantage of people and harming other people. And by you being silent, you are also holding in all of that pain that another person forced upon you instead of releasing it, which is a way to heal and reclaim your personal power by being able to tell your story. And given the current events that are currently given the events that are currently going on with Jeffrey Epstein, the cover up of this elite pedophile ring being front and center, I feel like I am finally ready to talk a little bit about my own personal experiences with this subject matter, how I have been learning to cope and heal with it through music festivals, openly sharing with other people, connecting with others with similar experiences, and through psychedelics, which have been helping me learn how to vocalize, helping me learn who I really am without all of this heavy weight that I have been carrying my entire life. And that have also been helping me in the sense of mushrooms, helping me repair the damage to my frontal lobe and because trauma, I don't know if you know this, but trauma quite literally causes brain damage. It completely rearranges your brain chemistry. You can see changes in the brain on MRIs before and after trauma. And mushrooms actually help us rebuild neural pathways, which can help your brain heal from the trauma that it's endured. And it's been very beneficial for me. I'm finally starting to reach a point once again where I feel like I don't really need the medicines to integrate what I have been learning with their help. I got to this point last year, but then I had a couple of moments of re-traumatization over the last 8 months. So I've kind of been dabbling again, particularly over the last couple of months. And I'm finally feeling like I'm getting back to a point where I don't need it, but these are powerful tools that can be beneficial for people that are struggling with taking that first step. And like Chris said in the last episode that I posted, it is very important to do your research, consider your own brain chemistry, set and setting, get reliable sources. But I definitely feel like these medicines have a lot of potential to help a lot of people. And there's a reason why I'm speaking about them, because they have been godsends in my own personal life. So, back in 2022, about 2 weeks after I had my very first DMT breakthrough, where I felt unconditional love for myself for the very first time in my life, I saw a shaman and I saw a grizzly bear, and tribal people communicated with me telepathically. I Knowing what I know now, I truly believe that I saw my life path and my power animal within this DMT trip. But about 2 weeks after that, I attended this music festival that the guy that I was dating at the time had thrown, that I paid for everything that did get paid for. I paid for it. He stole $5,000 from me under a contract that he never paid me back, took the contract from me, never returned it. It is what it is. But the very first night of this festival, he had this woman who set up this therapeutic tent at the festival that she calls Tribe. It's like therapeutic refuge for inspired. Oh, I can't I can't remember all of the words for it. I really wish I could. I'm sorry, Steph, if you listen to this. But she used to work in a women's prison as a psychologist, and she was working towards getting her degree to become a clinical psychologist and therapist. But she realized that she wasn't reaching people the way that she wanted to be reaching people. She also had sweat lodge experience. And so she decided to create this tribe tent to try to implement her own way of healing. And basically, what it is, it's this big old tent where a bunch of strangers would come in and sit in a circle. We'd all introduce ourselves, state how we're feeling in the moment, and then it would just be an open conversation for anybody who wants to speak about whatever is on their mind at the time. This was the very first time she had ever done one of these tribe circles. I didn't know what it was about when I ventured into it with my friends. I was actually coming up on LSD when I ventured into this tribe circle tent. It was hitting me, and I was like starting my trip right as we're introducing ourselves. And the thing is, she says that she wants you to come in the space without like partying or anything like that, because she wants it to be like a serious place where we can talk about serious things and make genuine human connections and healing. But the fact that I was on the LSD actually helped me in what took place within this circle. As we all went around this circle, we stated how we were feeling. Everybody was still just kind of scratching the surface of things that they wanted to talk about. And Steph looked around and she's just like, does no one have anything heavy that they want to get off of them? And I felt this purge coming out of my body. And I told the circle that I had been gang raped at a motorcycle rally at the age of 15. It was the first time I had ever vocalized this. And I had done it to a circle of complete strangers. And it was one of the hardest things that I have ever had to confront and face or expose of my life. But these complete strangers held space for me, were so loving. A couple of them confided that they had also experienced childhood sexual trauma and sexual abuse. My ability to share just opened up a deeper level of connection and vulnerability within this circle of strangers. And, I already knew how common sexual abuse and pedophilia was, because that experience at that bike rally was not my first run-in with it. My own personal sexual trauma may have began when I was a very little girl. My parents divorced when I was about 4 years old, and one of my first memories, I vividly remember the night that my dad left the house. My mom and my grandfather had come home from church, and they began yelling at my dad. They accused my dad of molesting me. Now, I spent a lot of alone time with my dad growing up. He used to bathe me and he would read me bedtime stories in his boxers, but like those were his pajamas. I genuinely do not believe that my dad is the source of the behaviors that I displayed as a child, because I did display symptoms of a child that had been exposed or abused from a very early age. At the age of 7, I was having behavioral issues. I would sometimes have violent outbursts. I had an issue with authority figures, and I also reenacted sex acts with other children at 7 years old, which is not normal. It's normal for children to have curiosity about the differences between boys and girls and about their private parts, but it is not normal for children to know how to perform multiple different sex acts, and I did at 7 years old. I didn't understand what I was doing. All I knew was that adults aren't supposed to know about it. And for the most part, adults didn't find out about it. There was one parent that did find out about it, and she chewed out my mom and told my mom that she was raising a little sicko. I just kind of stood there in shock and embarrassment listening to it, and I didn't say anything to my mom before or after. She just defended me and said that I wouldn't do that, and I never did anything with another child after that because I was scared. I didn't even realize that what I was doing was wrong. Um, I was 7 and I had no concept of what sex was. We were we were playing house, and I just knew this is how you play house. This is what you do when you play house. Um, but going back to the possible source of that behavior, I don't believe it was my dad. I also spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and my mom had my mom had a weird relationship when it came to sex and me as a child as well. Um, I was approached by men at that bike rally to flash them my chest for Mardi Gras beads. And I remember asking my mom if it was okay, and my mom saying, "It's not her decision, it's mine," when I was underage and my mom should have been protecting me. My mom also had a history of choosing her boyfriends over her children. You know, she grew up in this Christian patriarchy where the man is in control. It's the man's word over the woman's. And she followed that. Men came first, and women and children were below men. We're kind of seen as property instead of individuals with autonomy and rights. And then there's my uncle, who has been sexually abusing his partners and his tenants in his properties that he rents out for years. He's most definitely got weird perspectives when it comes to sex, unhealthy views of sex. And so I really question if there was sexual abuse taking place within my family connected to my grandfather. But I also knew that it was a big issue within our society because the grooming that I do remember happening in my life began when I was 11 years old. I used to be a part of the Beta Club, and they had this online website where you could go in chat rooms and talk to other kids that were in Beta Club. But the website would shut down at specific times of the day because you're kids, you're not supposed to be up late. But I would be on the computer anyway. I was chronically online as a kid because it was an escape from my reality. And I also felt kind of like an outsider in my day-to-day life. So I really enjoyed having people online to talk to. My mom also wasn't very present in my life. She was a pretty neglectful parent. And so I would be up late at night on the internet. And there was one night after the Beta Club website had shut down, everybody else was going to bed. I was feeling lonely and I wanted someone to talk to. None of my friends were online. So I got onto an AOL chat room and I put in my ASL to try to find some friends. And for those of you that do not know what ASL is, because it's before your time, it means age, sex, location. It means you send your age, whether you're a boy or a girl, and then you send what state you're located in. When I did this, I'm not even exaggerating when I tell you I received dozens of instant messages, and they were all from grown men that were 21 years or older. My whole computer screen was absolutely covered in instant messages within a matter of minutes, and they were like layered on top of each other. People don't understand how prevalent this is within our society. I got exposed to child pornography this way. I was threatened by adult men. I had adult men try to encourage me to touch my stepfather in his sleep, amongst many other things. I got coached through how to touch myself. And this went on for a long time afterwards, too. It wasn't just that one night either. And I didn't understand any of it. I had this like dirty feeling within me, but I didn't understand that what I was experiencing was grooming and significant trauma. I didn't realize I was being sexually abused because I didn't understand what sex was at 11 years old. My behavioral problems only got worse after this, obviously. I had my very first hospitalization at the age of 12 years old. My parents just thought I was this troubled child, just born with mental issues or just developing mental issues. No one ever questioned that there was something deeper going on. They just labeled me as mentally ill, and in this hospital they tried to put me on medications. And even when I was in therapy, like the way I ended up at the hospital, my mom had tricked me into it. So I did not trust adults whatsoever. And I had been threatened not to tell adults what was happening to me. So even when I was in therapy, I didn't feel safe talking about what I had gone through and what I was dealing with emotionally. The trauma didn't stop for me there, though. Obviously, because I mentioned the bike rally, but there's so much more than that. I lost my virginity to rape the night before my 14th birthday by a guy that was 18 years old. And, he liked the fact that I was so young because it meant I didn't have experience and that he could teach me. And see, this is the thing. Our society allows things like sexual abuse and pedophilia to thrive because our society is so obsessed with youth, and we tell women that they can't age, that they have to stay young and beautiful, that they're not going to be wanted if they age, because we're just so obsessed with young girls. I mean, it's even in the pornography that's out there. You see all kinds of barely 18 content. We're just obsessed with sex and young girls. And it creates this environment that allows this kind of abuse to thrive within our society. There is so much human trafficking that is going on within the US. It is not just the elites abusing their power over others. It is also happening with everyday average people too. And victims are forced into silence through guilt, shame, blame, and fear tactics. Our society is really quick to judge victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault. They scrutinize every little thing that victims talk about and how victims are when they don't have that exact same kind of energy for the people that are perpetuating these crimes and the people that are being accused of these crimes. And it's also extremely difficult to prove that crimes like this have happened because the people that are committing these crimes, like, they're smart about it. They know how to protect themselves. Like, they'll make victims bathe. They'll use coercive control tactics to make victims not talk about it. They'll get rid of evidence. They'll have these really strong public masks so people think they're great when they're doing all of these dark, dirty things in secret. That's how my uncle is. And that's not even it. As a survivor, it is also extremely difficult to accept and vocalize that someone did something so heinous to you. It leaves this horrible scar on your psyche. And it is such a complicated thing to process and to learn how to vocalize and admit that it happened to you. There's no such thing as a perfect victim either. And just because people have made mistakes does not mean that they deserved the terrible things that another person did to them. These bike rallies that I went to where I experienced gang rape, I was drunk and I was trying to find drugs too because I had been coping with substances in my life to help with it was self-medication. I was struggling with so much pain and turmoil within my head and my body that I just did not want to be present in my reality. And I made poor choices, yes, but that does not excuse the fact that grown men took advantage of me. Grown men gave me alcohol so they could have sex with me. Grown men gave me pills so that they could have sex with me. And even after my mom stopped going to these bike rallies, my mom was a craft vendor and she did a lot of traveling. My mom would my mom would be out of town and my stepdad would stay home because after I tried to kill myself at the age of 15, they didn't want to leave me alone. But my stepdad was an amputee, so we basically had a pharmacy in our house, and my stepdad would be completely passed out on painkillers and sleeping medications. So he wasn't aware of what was going on, even if he was home. So I would regularly sneak out of the house, and all of these men, grown ass men, again, would help me sneak out the house so that we could party, and then they would have sex with me. And they knew I was underage. They knew that I was 15 and 16 years old. And going into my adult life has been so challenging because of the experiences and the grooming that I have faced. I have been extremely promiscuous. Can't talk right now. I have been extremely hypersexual because of the trauma and the grooming that I have endured. You know, I was taught not to say no and that I am meant to serve men and make men happy. And the way that you make men happy is by having sex with them. My value as a woman was determined by my ability to make men happy and to be beautiful and to put out. But then, if you don't put out, men don't want you. If you do put out, men think you're a whore. You can't win either way. And by the time I was 18, I was already what everyone calls used up because I had been through so much sexual trauma that I didn't care about myself. I hated myself. I let people use me and take advantage of me even more because I felt like I wasn't worth anything more than that because of the traumas that I had endured and because of the way society views women that have had sex. Even when I did learn to say no to men, it didn't matter because a lot of men either wouldn't take no and would force themselves on me anyway, or I would say no and they take that as, oh, I just need to convince you. And then they keep trying until they convince me. And this is extremely common. I know so many women who have had experiences like this. After my suicide attempt, I just want to throw this out there because not even the system protects children. After my suicide attempt when I was 15, I ended up in this residential facility with a little girl who was around the age of 6, 7, or 8. And she was in there because her biological father had sexually assaulted her. CPS then took custody of her and she ended up in the foster care system. And then while in the foster care system, her new foster father had sexually abused her. And then she was at that residential facility dealing with significant trauma and she didn't have a home anymore because even the foster care system had failed her after she had been removed from a sexually abusive household. And there were multiple other girls that were in there with sexual trauma stemming from fathers, stepfathers, brothers, cousins, neighbors, coaches. It is this massive problem within our society, and I am just so tired of people pretending like it isn't happening every day behind closed doors in normal households. You know, this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, I really hope the cover up comes to an end and the people responsible can be held accountable and brought to justice, and those victims can have the justice and the closure that they deserve. But people are talking about this as if this is some unique thing within our society when it's not. Pedophilia is deeply, deeply ingrained within our society. It's been going on for centuries. If you go back to like the Roman times when they had pediatry, I can't remember, but I can't remember the term for it. But grown men would literally take young boys under their care as mentors, and they would have sexual relationships until the young boys reached manhood. And this was super common. And the patriarchy would also sanctify pedophilia in the names of in the name of marriage. You know, young girls would be married off to the highest bidder or the family that would help the girl's family climb the social ladder. You know, pedophilia has always been associated with power and class, and under the patriarchy, especially the Christian patriarchy, from my experience, you know, children are literally the bottom of the totem pole. They are seen as property, not individuals with their own rights and autonomy. And it has led to this. Even as recently as 1880, which was less than 150 years ago, the lowest age of consent in the United States was only 7 years old in Delaware, and more than 30 states had the age of consent at 12 years old. Even now, in modern day, the age of consent in the United States, on average, is only 16 years old. And to put into perspective, your frontal lobe, which is the part of your brain that is responsible for critical assessment, risk assessment, emotional regulation, judgment, all of that good stuff that helps you understand when you're in danger, when you're not in danger, and impulse control, things like that. The frontal lobe is not fully developed until you're in your mid-20s. Yet we are saying a 16-year-old can consent to having sex with an adult. And you know, a lot of the people that do commit these sorts of crimes are victims themselves. They are victims of trauma and sexual abuse themselves. I want to tell you another personal story. When I was 14 years old and I was being groomed online, I used to get on this website called Vampire Freaks. I think now they mostly sell clothing, but it used to be like forums and chatting. I met this man who was 21 years old. We chatted, and then we began an online relationship where he would have me webcam with him, role play incestuous relationships. He would have me strip for him, like dance and strip for him while he masturbated. And he played on all of my emotions. You know, he listened to how difficult my home life was. He told me that he wished he could rescue me, that one day he'll save me from it and we'll get married and live happily ever after. He told me how much he loved me. You know, he catered to all of these things that my underdeveloped frontal lobe was drawn to, because when you're a teenager, your frontal lobe is more so in this emotional and reward and attention based state. And groomers know that, and they play off of that. They offer the attention and the rewards and the emotional connection to get your compliance in what is going on. Well, eventually, This man and I stopped talking. Fast forward to when I am in my 20s and I'm starting to realize how he groomed me, he took advantage of me, and my love for this man and the heartache that I felt for him leaving me turned into hatred and anger, and not just for him, but for myself as well, for being stupid enough to fall for it. Then one day I get a random email from him. Hadn't talked to him in years, and he reaches out to me. Within this email, he tells me how he has been in therapy and he has been working through childhood trauma that he had been repressing for most of his life. He told me that he realized that the feelings that he had were wrong, but that he was too scared to get help. He told me that his brother had sexually assaulted him when he was a little boy. And he had all of this pain and confusion within him. And then he met me online. And he passed all of that pain and confusion onto me. He didn't seek help, so he became the very thing that created the pain within him. And that's the thing. Like I said, the people that are committing these crimes are usually victims themselves. I am not justifying what they do, nor am I excusing it. They deserve to have consequences for the things that they do. But this helped me realize something, and then through my use of psychedelics to heal myself and expand my ability to observe other perspectives, it's helped me realize that we cannot heal this world by shaming and punishing our way to a better world. That's just not how it works. He did not seek help before he hurt someone because he was scared of the judgment and the hatred that he sees within society. I see people leaving comments all the time about how pedophiles deserve to die. Personally, I don't believe it is anyone's place to decide if another person should die or not. My mom was a murder victim, and I don't agree with the death penalty. I feel like if we are going to have the death penalty, it should be the person's decision whether or not they spend their life in prison or they die. I don't think that should be our decision because we are not God. We're parts of God, yes. We are each individual aspects of God, but we are not God, the whole. And I just don't think that that is our place. We should not become the very monsters that we condemn. And then that's the thing. People that harm others, they do monstrous things, but they're not monsters. They're human beings. And we like to dehumanize people that we label as bad when good and bad is all just a perspective. Again, I am not justifying, excusing. I do not support pedophilia or sexual abuse of any kind, or even abuse of any kind. But I think it is really important to acknowledge the humanity of people, even when they are capable of horrible things or have done horrible things. And I firmly believe that empathy and compassion are the keys to us moving forward in a healthier way and preventing children and other people from suffering and experiencing the same kind of pain that I have experienced. If we showed a little more empathy and compassion, maybe those that have these harmful thoughts would be willing to come forward and get help before they hurt people. There are resources out there. There are pedophiles out there that have not harmed children and do not want to harm children, and they support each other to prevent each other from harming children. Prevention should be our focus and not just punishment. Because focusing on punishment only means that more children get hurt in the process. Prevention is the answer. And prevention does not happen without showing more compassion and empathy. To solve problems, you have to get to the root of the problem. And the people that cause harm are also people that are hurting, that have had harm done to them in many cases. I understand that I may have some backlash due to my ability to have empathy and compassion for those that are seen as less than people and the lowest life forms within our society. And that's okay. I'm here to break cycles, not continue the hurt and the pain. I'm here to stand in my own personal truth and the wisdom that I have gained through lived experience. I still hurt because of the things that were done to me, but responding with anger and hatred did not allow me the room that I needed to heal. Empathy and compassion did that. And my anger and the anger of all other survivors is 100% valid. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. Anger has a place. But to take that anger and respond with hatred does not work towards healing. It just perpetuates the cycle. It takes a lot of strength and courage to respond with compassion and empathy over hatred. I just want the world to be a better place. I just want there to be less pain and suffering. I don't want other children to get hurt. And this is why I feel like I need to talk about all of this. Because I'm trying to be the change that I want to see happen in the world. Psychologists are finding out through studies that this is how we prevent it. You know, I am not alone in my thinking. This is actually an emerging thing in psychology right now, and mental health care professionals are starting to push for more compassion and empathy and resources for people to come forward and get the help that they need before they hurt other people. But this is still a radical concept to a lot of people. I 100% understand that. I'm kind of on the front of this wave that's happening. And that's okay. I didn't come here to conform or to fit in or go along with the status quo. I came here to help heal the world by choosing to heal myself. And my voice is the only way that I know how to do that right now. I don't have resources to donate or invest in anything. All I have is my voice, and I have a platform on social media, even if very few people are listening or watching. And I want to help others have a voice too. This is about my personal empowerment and finding my own voice, but it's also about giving a voice to other people. If you would like to tell your story, please reach out to me. My Instagram is Electric Honeypot. I would love to set something up, travel out to you, and sit with you and hold space for you while you tell your story. You are not alone in the things that you are going through. You're not alone in your feelings. It's a hard world out there, and we're in this together. Whether you have awakened to this level of consciousness or not, you are a different aspect of me, just as I am a different aspect of you. Every single person out there is you, but from a different perspective. We are all the same being. It's experiencing itself from a different perspective. And when one of us chooses to heal, we help others heal. When one of us chooses to perpetuate the cycle of harm, others choose to perpetuate the cycle of harm. We're meant to learn how to love one another unconditionally. And unconditional love does not mean a lack of accountability or a lack of consequence, but it means understanding the experience that another is having and how it shaped them and how your experiences shaped you. I've been through absolutely awful things in my life, but I wouldn't change them for the world because they have created the person that I am today. And I quite love the person that I am today because I have had to crawl my way out of darkness to be this bright light that can stand in truth, that's not concerned about whether others like me or not, that stands up for what I feel to be right, and that leads with her heart. And one day, I hope I can make an even bigger impact. I don't know if my YouTube will ever be monetized, or if it is monetized, if I'll make money from it, since I am talking about very difficult subject matter and fringe topics that go against the status quo. If you like what I'm doing with my project, sharing my vulnerability, and you like my ideas of traveling and helping others people have a voice too, and you would like to support me in growing my project, all of my links to do so are located down in the description box. I have Venmo and PayPal under Electric Honeypot. I also have a Buy Me a Coffee. I would really like to get some better mics for when I have conversations with people, and I would like to invest in a nice camera because I'm just recording off of my phone right now. I am also currently trying to save up so I can afford to get some good quality all-terrain tires so I can start my road trip to go meet people. And eventually, I would love to have a converted Sprinter van. I've mentioned that a couple of different times. But again, donations are not necessary. A like, comment, share, a subscribe also helps me out significantly. And just you watching to this point, listening to this point, really helps me out as well. If you are still here, I'm extremely grateful for you. Thank you so much for listening to what I have to say and for helping me have a voice and helping my inner child finally be heard after a lifetime of being silenced. I really can't express how much that it means to me. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, night, week, month, year, and life. I love you so much. Stay curious.